Good morning, my friends. Let's begin, as always, by taking a few breaths. So exhale first, and take a deep breath in. And let go. Another deep breath. And let go. One more deep breath in. And so here we are. It's Sunday. For some, it's Easter Sunday. Children and people all across the world are celebrating the birth, death, and resurrection of a very special bunny, I hear. And something actually really quite beautiful that I want to point out is that, in the Christian world, today is Easter Sunday. And in the Jewish world, Passover is happening right now. Friends at Shabbat Yemenu had their Passover celebration here last night. And we're also in the midst of Ramadan. And our friends at the Islamic Center used our parking lot last night for their celebration that was happening. And so I just want you to know that our space is really, truly blessed by some deep and powerful ceremonies and celebrations that our shared communities are having here. And I'm just grateful that we're able to host that and hold that space here. So, where to begin? As you may or may not know, this year is our year we're calling our Year of Inner and Outer Permaculture. And this month, the month of April, our theme has been Produce No Waste. And our big exploration in that principle has really been about looking to the value that is really here in all of the experiences that we walk through, right? And then we look to the permaculture metaphor and the methodology we've been looking at this year. Part of that is to say, when you look at a forest, when you look at nature, everything has its place. Even the poopy stuff, even the broken down things, even the dead stuff, even that which is no longer working, has its place in a whole system when it's broken down and when it's given the ability to be reabsorbed back into the system and creates more thriving for everyone, right? And we have this remarkable capacity in the human world to believe in waste and to create systems that really create toxification of all of that stuff that no longer serves us. And then we don't allow it to be reabsorbed back into the system to actually feed us, right? And I've been thinking a lot about the Easter story as we come into this weekend, because I was raised in a Baptist community, so this stuff is deep inside of my psyche. And there's something interesting that actually emerges based on translation, of course, because context is everything, right? And I want to focus on one little piece of the Easter story, and that is the very sort of last moment of the crucifixion in the myth of Jesus, right? And if you look at most translations of the Bible, what are the last words on the cross? Why have thou forsaken me? Ooh. If you look to the Aramaic translation of the Bible called the Lamsa Bible, which is written by George Lamsa, it's perhaps a closer translation to the original text. In that story, in the Aramaic, the last words on the cross are, Father, for this thou hast left me here. Do you hear the difference? They're very different context. It tells a very different story, right? For this thou hast left me here says that everything leading up until this moment was for this purpose. Why hast thou left me here says, I did all this to get here, and now what? Right? And we talk a lot about the shift in pattern, the shift in context, the shift in story that we tell is absolutely everything. Right? And why is it that this holiday of Easter, of Passover, why is it that these things are smack dab in the beginning and the middle of the emergence of spring? Right? Because these stories, these holidays, these metaphors remind us that we survived. right? In the Passover celebration, one of the things that happens in that Seder ritual is to go back through the history of the Jewish people and say, remember when we were oppressed then? Remember when that happened and we got liberated? Remember when that happened and we made it through? Remember when that happened and we survived? We go back through the story and remind ourselves of our resilience, right? And this Easter holiday, the metaphor of resurrection, is the thing that we all live through every year. We go into the death of winter, and once spring finally starts to emerge, we say, thank God we made it. Right? And that cycle, that continuous cycle of repetition that reminds us that even when we go down into the darkness, there's always a time where we rise back up. There's always a time where life comes back in. There's always a time when more becomes available and we rise above what came before us. That's an incredibly useful story for all of us. Right? Because if we look to our life and we think that time has been wasted or energy has been put somewhere that it wasn't accepted or used in the right way, we feel like we've wasted something. And what if all of the twists and turns and trips and falls and ups and downs in your life are what are shaping and molding and preparing you for what you are here for? Right? And I say all the time, I really believe if you are alive currently on planet Earth right now, you are here on purpose. We are all living through the great breakdown or the great transition or the great beginning or the great falling apart, whatever you want to call it, it's great. But something is happening. And we can either stand by and think that it's all gone to waste, that 10,000 years of human civilization is leading us towards a crashing point. Good job, everyone. Or we can remind ourselves of the cycles and metaphors and stories that always tell us that we rise again, that we always come through on the other side. You know, if you've been involved in my synthesis classes, we talk a lot about Joseph Campbell's hero's journey, right? This monomyth, this archetypal story that if you look to all of history and every culture and every story and every civilization, there's one story that continuously emerges, which is we were there, we went away and fell apart, we overcame, and we came back. Right? That's the great story. And that's what's in the Passover story, that's what's in the Easter story, is a story of overcoming trials and tribulations and circumstances that push us to become more of ourselves. Right? There's another story, it's Easter, I guess we're going into the Bible today. There's another story from the book of Esther. How many of you know the story of Esther? Oh, good. 2 people. I'm going to tell it to you. So, Esther is a Jewish woman who gets married to if I'm remembering correctly, is the king of Babylon. And he doesn't know that she's a Jew. And the Jewish people are enslaved in Babylon. And one of the Jafar characters, the Grand Vizier who's working with the king, says, we need to get rid of these people who are amongst us. And so they make a law, and all of the Jewish people are going to be executed based upon this law. And Esther goes to her father, Mordecai, and she's like, our people are about to be eradicated. And yet I am secretly a Jew married to the king. And Mordecai says to her, perhaps you've been put here for such a time as this. Perhaps the whole reason that you landed in this position of privilege, in this place of power, you are the one person who might be able to make a difference. Perhaps you've been placed into this moment in time for such a time as this. And that made all the difference. That changed the story because she was willing to speak up, but she had to put herself at risk. She had to out herself. And when she did, she was able to bring compassion from her husband for her people. Right? What if each one of us has been placed into this moment in time on planet Earth to be here for such a time as this? right? I believe 100% that there is something inside of each person in this room, and perhaps inside of each person on this planet, that is just waiting to emerge. And when we listen to that, when we say yes to it, when we're willing to give ourselves to it, we become the ones who can make the greatest possible change in our world around us. But we have to be willing to come out. We have to be willing to be at risk. We have to be willing to recognize that maybe our privilege or our pain, whichever got us to here, has been given to us so we can do something with it. So that we can rise above the process that got us here and bring about something new, something more, something possible. Right? All of this introspective self-work, spiritual healing that we're all about, it should be for something, right? And whatever that something is yours to do. But we have to know that we are moving towards something, that there's a this that we've been left for. And we need to be able to name it, to look to it, to find the story that reminds us of where we're going, so that as we continuously look to that story, it gives us a roadmap and it inspires us to step up, to be more, to engage in that which is happening around us. What if each one of us lived our lives as if we were put here for this time? You know, for most of my life, I have lived with a generalized experience of anxiety. They medicated me at one point. That didn't work out so well. And then in 2020, the entire world's anxiety level rose to meet mine. And I went, ooh, y'all, I got this. Let me show you how to walk in these waters, right? And it was like this thing that had been my biggest struggle, this thing that had overwhelmed me much of my life, was a preparation for a time such as this, so that I can show others how to live in that anxiety, how to rise up, how to channel that energy into something else, and be powerful, creative peacemakers in the world. Right? We all have to find what it is that we are here for. And it's probably hidden in your struggles. It's probably hidden in the things that you are dealing with. It's probably hidden in the parts of yourselves that you've crucified and have said are wrong. The story that ends in "Why hast thou forsaken me" got hung up on the crucified Jesus. But for this thou hast left me here. It brings us to a different version of the story. It brings us to a resurrection. It brings us to a possibility. It brings us to one who rises above even the greatest persecution, can say, I'm still here for something. No matter what comes at me, I'm still here for this. Right? And when I look to that story and I see the portion where our main character goes off into the desert and struggles with the devil and is given all these temptations, what if that part of the story is when his higher self is saying, are you sure you're up for it? You have the power to walk away. You have the power to just take care of yourself. You could have everything. But what if that's not the adversary trying to pull you away from your purpose, but your higher self saying, are you really up for it? And so we look to the difficulties, the struggles, the pain, the disease, the breakdown in our life. What if everything that's coming at us individually, societally, and collectively, what if all of that stuff that's coming at us is saying, how big can you be? Are you up for this? And hopefully, we're willing to rise up and meet it. You know, you've heard me say before, quoting Neil Donald Walsh, anytime you choose to do or be something, everything unlike it shows up. Right? So which means that when you claim something, the entirety of the universe shows up and says, oh yeah? How about now? How about now? In the face of this, how about now? And it's the challenge. Will you rise to meet the challenge? And if I believe that every time we choose to be something, everything unlike it shows up, it also means that every time everything unlike it shows up, we must have chosen to be or do something. It goes the other way. And so when I look out at the world and I see everything unlike it showing up, I ask myself, what have we called in? What have we actually said yes to on a deeper soul level as a society or as a species? What is it that we have invited in that is so big and so powerful and so true and so full that all of this is rising up to ask us, are we willing to accept it? Yes. And so it's time to get off the cross, so to speak, and rise up. Figure out what we stand for. Figure out who we truly are and what it is that we are inviting in, and then look at everything that comes at us as the invitation to take a step forward, to meet it right where it is, because that's where creation's going to happen. And it needs to emerge from each one of us, and then we can do it together. So let's rise up. Take a deep breath. And let go. As we take another deep breath in and let go. And so as we breathe this morning, let us remember that above all things, there is only one thing. That the very ground of being, at the very center of who we are, I claim to be light, to be love, to be God. That we are born from the quantum sea of infinite possibility. And through our choice, through our intention, through our interaction, through our attention and our observation, those possibilities become specific. They become existence, they become our lives, they become us, they become our world. And so let us remember that it is the divine presence that is channeling through each one of us in every moment. And that as we step ever deeper into that awareness, we are then reminded that there is something within each one of us that is waiting to emerge into the world. And so let us just claim, know, and declare this day that each one of us is in the continuous process of resurrection, of rebirth, of rising above, of emerging from the darkness, of stepping above that which has held us down. Let us rise to a new level of possibility. Let us rise to a new level of consciousness. Let us live with a new level of enthusiasm and anticipation of what is emerging. Because when we see all that is, we remember that there is something so much more coming through it all. That we are a people who are continuously turning our attention to the possible and allowing that to inspire us and fire us and wake us up, so that we become the ones who choose something different. Let us believe in peace, in possibility, as much as those who we want to point a finger at believe in war and power. Let our belief be greater. Let us see something bigger and believe in something more. Let us rise. Let us be reborn in every moment. And from that place, live in perpetual gratitude for all that we have, for everything that has come before this moment that has made us and molded us and shaped us into who we are and who we are becoming, and then listen to that lure of becoming and allow it to pull us forward. And so in gratitude, just remind us to surrender and be breathed by that power for good in this universe that is so much greater than we are. And let it live through us, move through us, and have its being in us in everything we do. And so for all of this and so much more, I say yes. And so it is.